Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince White. The chapter begins. As the aircraft cuts across the skyline, city lights below shimmer like a battlefield waiting to be reclaimed. Inside the towering doors of the Chivalry Guild headquarters, the air buzzes with pride and momentum. The guild logo gleams on the glass, a silent testament to their rise. Around a polished boardroom table, suited members lean in as one proudly declares the obvious. Our guild has grown really big. From humble beginnings as a C-rank hunter guild, they've now earned the rights to a B-rank gate in Incheon, and their new expansive office space reflects that progress. Their voices echo with the satisfaction of ambition paying off. The laughter echoed as one of the hunters proudly held up a glimmering shard. "This is all thanks to Stardust," he declared, his voice filled with pride. The shard sparkled in the overhead light, an object now synonymous with sudden advancement. With it, their guild, once filled with average C-rank hunters, had managed to stake a claim on a formidable B-rank gate. Another hunter leaned back, arms crossed. "It's easier to find on the black market these days. And it's cheaper too." His voice carried a cautious tone, but even he admitted, "I don't know who made it, but I'm thankful." Another voice rose, uneasy and firm. "Is it that good? I feel like something's off about it." A hunter shouted, "Hey, you were a B-rank to begin with. You won't be able to understand how we feel." Kim Sung-soo, a B-rank hunter. He answered with gravity, "I heard the Hunter Association is considering a law to prohibit Stardust use." The words stirred the room. What? Why would they do that when there aren't any side effects? Isn't it better if hunters can close more gates? The frustration was palpable. Low-ranked guilds like theirs had long struggled for relevance. "They don't do anything for us." With a sigh, Sung-soo cracked open a can, muttering, "I can't do anything even if you complain to me." He raised the drink to his lips, letting the carbonation fizz away the tension until he froze. A sound, a sensation. The doors creaked open. Footsteps, measured and echoing, struck the floor like thunder. 3 figures entered, casting elongated shadows. At the center stood a white-haired boy with burning golden eyes, flanked by towering bodyguards. He stared ahead, voice calm yet absolute. "This is the Chivalry Guild," he said coldly. "Are you the guild that has the rights to the gate that appeared in Incheon?" A hunter stood to meet him, confused by the presence of a child. "A kid? This is the Chivalry Guild. What brings you here?" But the boy did not entertain small talk. "Hand over the gate." The hunter blinked. "Huh." A moment passed. The child's gaze sharpened into something monstrous. "I said, hand over the gate." In an instant, the room exploded with light and fury. The air cracked as golden sigils blazed around him. Power surged, roaring like a tidal wave. Shocked screams erupted as the hunters were engulfed in an overwhelming storm of blinding radiance. The demand was no longer a request. It was war. "Apostle, we'll do as you say," one voice mutters. Then another. And another. All at once, guild members, those who had consumed Stardust, stand and bow, their eyes glazed over with unnatural reverence. The hunter looks around, stunned. "Everyone, what kind of joke are you pulling? Why did all of you suddenly stand up and bow to him?" But the apostle, unbothered, scans the room. A slight smirk tugs at the corners of his lips. "There are hunters who didn't consume Stardust, huh?" he murmurs, eyes locking onto the remaining few. "This is perfect." His followers move swiftly. The room falls under a strange silence as he gives his command. "From now on, none of you are allowed to use your sight or hearing." Darkness closes in over the minds of the affected. Some cover their ears. Others simply freeze, eyes blank. "Why are you all doing what this kid says?" the hunter shouts, his voice rising in desperation. The boy walks forward, slow and confident. "I wanted to talk to other humans besides that asshole." In the shadows, his golden irises glowing with divine purpose. "Our Creator wishes to possess the rights to the world without a master," he declares, his voice low and unwavering. "I came to Earth to fulfill his wishes." The guild leader steps back, incredulous. "What are you talking about?" But after coming here, the apostle continues, his tone shifting to curiosity. "I had some questions." His eyes narrow as he continues. "Creations are beings made to execute the wishes of their creator. But you humans, you've acquired other purposes and moved based on your own will. He leans forward, the tension in the room electrifying. What wishes of the Creator are you guys fulfilling? With a shout of fear and rage, the guild leader draws his weapon and charges. The Creator? Who the hell is that? His blade flashes, slicing through the air in desperation. Revert everyone back to who they were before. Tension thickens in the air. Is this some kind of cult religion? He scoffs, his patience thinning. You might be a young kid, but I won't let you do as you please if you keep pulling pranks. As the Apostle of Iterim tightens his grip around a dagger, the blade catches the light with a threatening gleam. His voice is sharp, his glowing eyes calm. He repeats the word in a whisper that cuts through the room like a knife. A cult. The man before him falters. His bravado crumbles as beads of sweat form. His wide eyes flicker with confusion and creeping fear. But the Apostle doesn't flinch. The judgment has already begun. A radiant surge of golden energy engulfed the boy's arms, his glowing yellow eyes narrowing with divine fury. His voice cut through the air, calm yet thunderous in judgment. Did you just blaspheme my Creator? Without hesitation, he raised his hand. Magic gathered into his palm, pulsing like a miniature sun, and he spoke a single command. Amplify. The burst of power erupted with devastating force. A shockwave lit the room like lightning, and in its wake, the B-rank hunter attacked toward the Apostle, a scream torn from his throat. Oh! Before the strike connects, the Apostle attacked with thunderous speed, the blood erupting as golden energy tore through him like a divine blade. His sword fell uselessly from his hand as another blast struck, shattering bone and will alike. Standing over them with calm malice, the boy exhaled. The golden light dimmed around his fingers, but the fire in his gaze remained. Then he turned to the rest of the room. Everyone, I allow you to see and hear again. Clean up this place. Down the corridor, footsteps echoed. What was that noise? Did a hunter wreck this place again? The tension hung heavy in the air as the Apostle calmly exited the room, leaving behind only blood, silence, and the scent of scorched pride. With the hallway bathed in an eerie crimson hue, the glowing-eyed subordinates moved in silence, heads bowed in obedience. From within the darkness, a quiet but absolute command echoed. Forget everything you saw here. The directive weighed heavily on them. Not just an order, but a purge of memory, enforced by something greater than fear. A golden eye narrowed in thought. Deep within its glow stirred something foreign, doubt. The mind beneath that gaze repeated a question again and again. What is free will? The words were not spoken aloud, yet they rang like a whisper from another plane. Creations are made only to serve, to fulfill the will of their Creator. Nothing more. But then, something unprecedented happened in this universe. A betrayal. A deviation from the script written by divinity. The Creator was slain by his own creations. A chilling swirl of void marked the remembrance of that blasphemy. And as that vision faded, the blood-stained hallway blurred into another place, another act of punishment unfolding. In the deepest part of that broken dimension, a hulking beast stirred. Its eyes glowed with red fury, its body hunched with pain and vengeance. It wasn't a mere monster. It was a refugee of annihilation, a being exiled by the rift, stripped of everything, cursed to wander. The boy, the Apostle, stood before it, palm up, offering not sympathy but opportunity. It must be painful, he said calmly, his expression unreadable. To roam forever with no home to return to. He held out a shimmering crystal. I'll give you a chance to let out your anger. The orb pulsed with unnatural energy, and from it, the dimensional refugee surged forth in a blaze of golden chaos. Go out and run as rampant as you want, the Apostle commanded. The monster obeyed with a howl that shattered the silence. As he watched the destruction unfold, the Apostle's golden eyes gleamed with a dark resolve. I need to investigate this world more. A pause. Then, in the same breath, he concluded with chilling finality. All for the sake of fulfilling the wish of our Creator. A plane cuts through the storm-washed skies above a bustling airport, its silhouette barely visible under brooding clouds. Below, a web of traffic threads through the terminal's sleek design, lights gleaming off rows of parked cars and polished metal. The calm of the scene is deceiving. Two figures stand quietly under the towering glass facade, backlit by the sterile glow of security lights. Their presence is tense, like a warning waiting to be spoken. One man, dressed sharply in black, stares at the gate, sensing something unnatural. A dark aura coils faintly around his frame, and a grim expression forms on his lips. This looks dangerous. His voice is low, edged with certainty. Scarlet energy begins to seep into the air, bleeding outward from the gate as if it's exhaling dread. The team assembles at the threshold, staring into the swirling void of a portal pulsing with raw magic. Based on the magic power that's coming out of the gate, if we don't subjugate the boss monster immediately, I think a dungeon break is imminent. If that happens here, I worry it'll cause immense damage to the airport. Red light dances along their figures, casting elongated shadows behind them. As the hunter turns to the team, a quiet resolve hardens his expression. In that case, behind him, the apostle stands ready. We'll report to the Hunter Association that there are no problems here, Apostle. But Apostle doesn't respond. His glowing eyes flicker like coals stoked by divine intent. His breath stills, and everything falls silent for one heavy heartbeat before power erupts. The crimson cloud bursts forward. Unseen forces lift the team off the ground in an instant, their bodies flung helplessly in all directions, shadows spinning in midair. The scene warps as feathers of light spiral into view. Golden energy pours forth, revealing a divine creature radiating majesty, an angelic beast forged of raw power. Wings unfurl as the narration echoes with certainty. Creations are beings made to execute the wishes of their creator. In the abyss of battle, titanic silhouettes clash and shatter the void. Shadows rend one another, blood soaking the fields of chaos. If our creator is bored, we'll fight among ourselves. If our creator wants something, we'll resort to all means to offer it to him. That is the reason for the existence of us creations. A hushed reverence swept through the infinite heavens as the creator, God, finally spoke. From behind divine shadows, a command was uttered that would shift the balance of realms. One of his kind had perished in another dimension, and thus the order was given. A chalice of divine light, radiant and sacred, descended like a sun-born beacon into the hands of a kneeling servant. The being trembled not with fear, but with purpose. "Take this," God declared, "and bring me the rights to the world that has lost its master." Without hesitation, they obeyed. Wings of brilliant flame stretched across the sky as the chosen army assembled. Countless believers, warriors of holy might, gathered beneath the will of their creator. In harmony, their blades gleamed and their hearts surged with fervent purpose. Together, they embarked upon their divine mission to claim the abandoned throne of a forsaken world. But the journey itself was no less miraculous. The dimensional gate, narrow and defiant, strained beneath the titanic force of a legion forged by faith. Energy vast enough to split stars was compressed through the passage, slow, relentless, divine. It took time, ages perhaps, but the army of God never faltered. One by one, they crossed the threshold into the unknown. And finally, they arrived. Above the land bathed in golden twilight, they looked down upon the world that had lost its master. But instead of silence, they found defiance. There, standing alone amidst a sea of descending seraphim, was a man wrapped in darkness deeper than the void itself. Shadows swirled at his feet. The sky bowed in crimson fear. They saw him. They saw darkness. It was not a void of absence, but of presence, overwhelming, living, breathing power that pierced even divine eyes. A pitch-black depth that swallowed light and shattered understanding. And then, with a single word, "Arise," the heavens trembled. From the pit of shadow rose a power long believed extinguished, and the battlefield of gods now stood face to face with something far more absolute. Not chaos, not rebellion, but a king. Under a sky filled with celestial fragments and eerie violet light, monstrous silhouettes descend like shadows of war. The enormous form of a draconic beast roars through the heavens, cloaked in crackling darkness and seething power. Its massive claws tear through space, leading a tide of twisted, luminous creatures behind it. Beneath its thunderous presence, a swarm of glowing shapes hurtled downward, consumed soldiers reanimated by the void. A figure emerges amidst a battalion of grotesque beings, warriors forged from shadows and divine ruin. Each of them radiates menace and impossible might. The army of darkness, immense and merciless, looms around their commander, cloaked in flowing shadows, his silhouette calm, as though mocking the gods. The battle unfolds in a chaotic crescendo. God's soldiers clash with the invading horde, yet for every one that falls, the darkness consumes their remains, twisting them into new enemies. The more they resist, the stronger the darkness grows. Even in death, their bodies become fuel to feed its dominion. Hope dwindles as enemy ranks swell endlessly. The battlefield a nightmarish churn of divine light and corrupt power. As the tide of battle turns, dimensions crumble. The war spills into realms beyond its origin, tearing through space like a plague. The army of God falters, momentum broken, and the world once protected falls into despair. With no end in sight, the campaign is no longer one of strategy, but of survival. Amid the desperation, a figure rises, the envoy of God, Teal. Radiating calm authority, he sees what others cannot. His voice breaks the gloom. This is not defeat, this is opportunity. Those who once emerged from the abyss cannot return easily, their bodies now overflowing with magic drawn from the depths. In contrast, this broken world, the world that lost its master, houses beings of no magic. Vulnerable, malleable, a new plan takes form. Teal proposes the use of Mistborn, lowly believers who once perished in holy fire but retained the will of God. Frail but fervent, their faith burns hot enough to tear through the powerless. Explosive in number, devastating in purity, these zealots would infest the world like wildfire, converting the land from within. The council sees his vision. With enough propagation, sanctuaries could bloom, and miracles could be birthed into enemy soil. Faith, not power, will be the divine hammer. As Teal's words echo through the golden halls, one by one, the others nod. The heavens have chosen a new weapon. Teal soon unleashed his divine ability, a power to divide his essence into 5 radiant fragments, each one glowing with a different surge of celestial energy. Red, blue, gold, violet, green. His strength and purpose were split like the colors of creation itself. Among them, the weakest fragment was entrusted with a critical task, to carry the sacred flame of the Mistborn into the forsaken world that had lost its master. As it was designed, the fragment's light dimmed low enough to remain hidden from the eyes of darkness. With stealth and divine purpose, it sailed across dimensions like a quiet star, unnoticed, until it finally breached the skies of its destination, the world that lost its master. The journey was a success. The fragment slipped through undetected, descending into the world like a beacon cloaked in stillness. But what awaited it was not a silent landing. Instead, it encountered unexpected resistance. The unknown variables had already begun to stir. This world, it has changed. Humans, once powerless, now wielded magic. The great cataclysm had transformed them, infusing magic into their very being. The first fragment, puzzled and wary, realized this evolution was no accident. It waited, and soon enough, it was joined by the second fragment, the two merging effortlessly. Someone had orchestrated this. The fragment, now more aware, cautioned itself. No further miscalculations must occur. It needed to learn, to understand the nature of humans, and particularly those called hunters, the pinnacle of this world's magical potential. In this vast sea of mortals, the fragment of Teal stood still, calm, and observant, his divine presence disguised in a human shell. And then chaos struck. A sudden rupture in reality. A burst of noise and panic swept the crowd as shadows emerged, distorted and monstrous. The airport turned into a battlefield in an instant. People screamed. Guards stood frozen. And from the dimensional tier, twisted red beasts flooded in, harbingers of something far more terrifying. A swarm of grotesque creatures poured into the building, their footsteps thunderous as panic spread. Monsters, a terrified voice shouted. The wave of abominations grew thicker, red veins glowing on their bodies, fangs dripping with blood. It's a dungeon break. Another screamed, desperation thick in his voice. Contact the Hunter Association. Amid the terror, the silver-haired boy remained calm. His gaze scanned the monsters. If monsters with immense magic power appear, then high-ranking hunters will show themselves. A glimmer of curiosity sparked in his eyes. I want to see how powerful an S-rank hunter really is. A hunter moves forward. Why did a dungeon break happen here? Wasn't a guild already assigned to this gate? Then it clicked. The hunters stationed at this gate, his eyes narrowed. They're all users of stardust. The vision shifted to the black-cloaked soldiers glowing with eerie light. Stardust, he thought, is a stimulant forged from the melted faith of Mistborns. Alone, the residual faith in their bodies is weak, but if amplified, he focused. If we use Teal's ability to amplify that faith, golden rings lit up above the head of a man now radiating divine aura. His eyes locked with the apostle in crimson robes. You're getting in our way, the apostle said flatly. Go back. The man's eyes shifted in understanding. Yes, apostle. Screams echoed as chaos overtook the terminal. A monstrous claw pierced through a woman's back, her anguished cry drowned by the sound of blood splattering across the polished floor. As her body slumped forward, a green-skinned beast dragged her like prey, locking eyes with the white-haired observer standing eerily still. Crimson eyes glinted from the darkness as a mangled hand reached up toward the boy, trembling, pleading, "Help me." But he didn't move. Blood painted the tiles beneath the dying hand of a fallen civilian, fingers twitching in one final spasm of life. A voice, distant yet resolute, echoed in the air. Creations exist for the sake of the Creator, God. And yet, amid the chaos, a deeper question burned within the fragment of Teal. Was that truly the only reason for existence? To fulfill divine intent alone? As the glowing yellow eyes of the fragment pierced through the smoke and ruin, a thought gnawed at his consciousness. If that was all, then why did humans possess desire? Why did these frail, finite beings carry within them a fire so fierce and unyielding? Why were they not just obedient vessels? His gaze lowered, shadowed and intense, struggling to understand why creations held ambitions that were meant for gods. Then, monsters roared across the battlefield. Red-eyed beasts tore through the air, hunting down humans like prey. And in the midst of their terror, the fragment's mind seethed. Did these fragile creatures truly believe they were superior? Screams echoed through the terminal. As the figure looked up, his expression was disbelief. A dungeon break, he muttered under his breath. I can't believe this is happening as soon as I arrive in Korea. The next moment, a man stumbled backward and crashed to the floor in fear, his eyes locked on the incoming monsters. A monstrous face lunged toward another civilian, who froze in place, too scared to even scream. But before death could strike, an explosion of force cracked the air. A blue energy burst across the scene, and in its wake, a powerful hunter landed between the monster and its would-be victim. Electricity danced along his figure, and his presence pushed back the tide of dread. I'll stop the monsters, he declared without hesitation. So please run away now. The light behind his words stunned even the apostle. From the shadows, the apostle observed silently, golden eyes wide. For the first time, something stirred in his expression, something foreign, and perhaps the very desire he questioned. With a savage snap of lightning across the air, Suho cleaves through the monsters in a blur of motion. Fangs bare, blood spills, and the clash of raw power drowns the hallway in chaos. His movements are too fast, too brutal, an executioner among beasts. The grotesque creatures stumble backward in panic, but his blade follows, merciless and precise. From the shadows, Apostle's golden eyes widen, locked on the black mask and the terrifying aura it conceals. A memory stirs, whispers of a hunter clad in darkness, a rumor turned reality. A hunter who wears a black mask, the vision grows clearer. That savage efficiency, the ruthless blade. Could it be the one who dismantled the Hyena Guild? His mind races, piecing together what once seemed myth. Could he be? Suho rises, framed by a glowing haze and blood, his grip firm around his blade as his icy gaze pierces forward. Sparks flicker at his side like loyal spirits. He stands not as a mere hunter, but as a storm forged in secrecy. The voice echoed. The disruptor, the one Lee Min-sung feared. The one who fights in silence, but leaves devastation in his wake. Chaos exploded across the terminal like a storm of madness. Screams tore through the air, frantic and desperate, as terrified civilians scattered in every direction. Red-eyed monsters surged through the breach, savage, grinning fiends with axes raised high, thirsting for blood. Their claws slashed, their laughter echoed like sirens of the abyss, and panic reigned. A young man stumbled through the crowd, eyes wide with horror, running for his life, but death chased closely at his heels. With a roar, the goblins burst forward, their bloodthirst magnified by the red glow pulsing from their cores. There was no warning, no mercy, just the sound of feet pounding against the ground and weapons raised to kill. But in the very heart of that chaos, a storm of black and blue erupted. A streak of lightning carved through the darkened hall, and in the next instant, goblins were flung backward, slashed cleanly through with such precision they barely had time to realize they were dead. Suho surged forward like a phantom cloaked in fury, his blade dancing in arcs of devastation. The air cracked with each strike, resonating with deadly rhythm. In midair, Suho twisted, slicing down Goblin as if swatting away a fly. His hood fluttered behind him, the glint of his black mask catching the fading light. The momentum of his attack never slowed. Landing amidst the carnage, Suho's eyes narrowed. The bodies of goblins lay scattered around him, and still more approached, but he wasn't concerned about them. His thoughts sharpened. A dungeon break at a public gate? That was unthinkable. The Hunter Association would never allow something this reckless to happen in a populated area, which meant something else was at play. He lowered his stance, scanning the battlefield, his masked expression grim. What happened here? A few meters away, another figure emerged, composed and calculating. His eyes locked onto Suho's presence. Inside Suho's mind, a single thought pulsed. I need to first get people out of here. The man moved with purpose, and as he did, his thoughts churned with observation. That black mask, it wasn't just a disguise. There was no trace of mist-born faith in the aura he sensed. That meant this man hadn't consumed stardust. He wasn't one of them. But then, how was he this powerful? The apostle clenched his jaw. His magic power, it's either equal to Lee Min-sung, or even a little higher. And then, the wind shifted. A faint pulse of energy rippled through the battlefield. A single word, clear and commanding, echoed through the air. Arise. From the shadows beneath Suho, ethereal flames surged forth, and goblins once slain began to stir. But they didn't return as the twisted monsters they once were. They stood as soldiers, servants, loyal to one command. Suho stood at the center, calm and resolute. His eyes didn't waver as he addressed the summoned dead. I want you guys to help those who are unable to evacuate. In awe and terror, the apostle observer froze. His eyes widened, golden irises quivering as realization struck him like a thunderclap. He could barely breathe as the pieces fell together. The authority that uses darkness. And within that eerie silhouette, the towering shadows, the monstrous legion, the dreadful calm, he saw it. Not a man, but a king of a forgotten domain. The shadow monarch had risen once again. The boy's heart raced in disbelief as his gaze locked onto the masked figure cloaked in shadows. That ominous power, it wasn't just any magic. It was something forbidden, something feared. I can't believe there's a human that can use the authority of darkness, he thought, breath caught in his throat. The glow of the summoned shadows behind the figure only confirmed his suspicion. If that man truly had ties to the darkness, then his earlier attacks on the Hyena Guild and the Stardust Factory weren't random. They were calculated moves meant to disrupt a grand design. Sweat trickled down the side of the boy's face as realization dawned like a cold blade pressing against his neck. I need to hide my presence for now. He stepped back silently, eyes glinting with sharp resolve. We mustn't let him realize our existence in this world. His thoughts echoed urgently as he turned away from the battlefield. Suddenly, the whine of a heavy engine shattered the quiet tension. A massive truck, unnaturally airborne, soared through the sky before slamming down into the street with explosive force. The shockwave roared across the plaza, the blast engulfing the area in flame and smoke. Emerging through the blaze, unshaken and resolute, stood the boy in the black mask. The flames curled around him like reverent spirits, unable to harm him. His eyes locked onto the boy's figure in the distance. To think a truck would fly here out of nowhere, the apostle murmured, masking his astonishment. From within the flames, the Suho's voice called out, "Kid, are you all right?" But the expression beneath the mask had shifted. The air trembled. Something monstrous was coming. A hulking figure emerged from the rubble, a beast with glowing yellow eyes and scales hardened like armor. It charged, each step rumbling the ground, jaws wide with murderous intent. And yet, the man didn't flinch. "Is that the boss of the monsters?" he muttered coldly, his voice low and focused. From the shadows beside him, a voice whispered, "Young monarch, I sense the energy of Iterum from that monster." His gaze hardened. In that case, this dungeon break might be related to Iterum. Behind him, Baru, the loyal shadow, turned his head slightly, ears twitching. His large, round eyes blinked as he glanced into the smoke. A sense of something watching prickled along his darkened form. "Was I imagining things?" he whispered to himself. But the danger hadn't passed. Something else lurked in the firelight. Something that didn't want to be seen. A monstrous roar tears through the blazing battlefield as the hulking beast lunges forward, its savage fangs bared, molten fire reflecting in its maddened eyes. The earth trembles with its charge, the inferno swirling behind it like a curtain of rage. Suho's figure darts forward, unwavering, cutting through the chaos. Flames lick at his cloak, but his focus is razor-sharp. With a surge of power, he clenches his fist and drives it straight into the enemy's path. "I'll put all the stats I obtained from reaching level 35 into strength." In that moment, a surge of energy floods his body, a digital prompt appearing. Strength, 70 to 77. The ground explodes beneath his momentum. His punch lands with earth-shattering force, creating a shockwave that sends the beast reeling. From behind, the white-haired boy stares, astonished by the display. Did he save me? A soft realization flickers in his gaze. It seems he thinks of me as a young human child. But even as the flames crackle and the blows exchange, thoughts churn within him. His eyes narrow, catching the nuances of Suho's power. Although he uses the authority of darkness, he's utterly weak compared to the darkness. Still, his expression shifts from curiosity to intrigue. However, his potential can't be determined right now. A shadow crawls over his face as he steps back into the smoke, his golden eye gleaming with a chilling resolve. I was lucky to meet him here. I'll get rid of him. But as his thoughts darken, another presence enters. From behind scorched hallways, footsteps echo through the fiery haze. I'm late. A new figure, tall and imposing, emerges through the destruction. His voice cuts through the tension like a blade. Let's end things quickly. All around, the flames ripple, and the monsters lurking in the inferno turn, their grins twisted and eyes glowing crimson. They sense a new predator in the smoke, and the hunt is about to begin. Flames surged in chaotic spirals as the apostle halted mid-step, his glowing eyes widening in disbelief. A wave of fire burst to life around him, licking the walls and the ceiling, warping the light into searing pulses. He instinctively flinched, caught off guard by a power he didn't expect. Down below, amidst the spreading inferno, Suho landed with a grimacing crouch. His breath fogged the air, confusion flickering in his glowing eyes. Fire? The word escaped him, uncertain and cautious, as he scanned the room now filled with rolling flames. In the midst of it all, a line of monsters surged toward a new figure stepping through the wall of fire like a phantom of vengeance. A volley of fireballs danced across the air, trailing embers in their wake. Without hesitation, the newcomer lunged into the crowd of beasts, his fist wreathed in flames. His punch detonated against the nearest monster with raw, explosive power. The room rattled. Flames engulfed the impact zone, devouring several monsters in a blink. Suho's eyes narrowed. Fireballs appeared out of nowhere and are attacking the monsters. His thoughts raced to catch up with the sight unfolding before him. Smoke and flame whirled together into a blinding storm. The corridor was strewn with charred remains of creatures felled instantly. Suho's mind reeled. It's hard to believe that so many monsters were killed at once. Then, As if answering the question lingering in the scorched silence, a silhouette emerged through the flame, cloaked in long black and crimson, with chains hanging from his coat and power thrumming in every step. He walked through the blaze like a king returning to the battlefield. A hunter who controls fire, could he be? The light shifted, and then Suho saw him clearly. Sharp features, glasses catching the firelight, a composed face devoid of panic. Is that Hunter Choi Jong-in, an S-rank hunter? With a calm nod, the man responded, "Oh." Even the monstrous beast standing in the center of the room seemed to flinch. "To think you withstood that attack. You're pretty tough." With that, Hunter Choi started to create a fire bow with his hands. The fire still flickering around his hands, his figure stood silent and composed. But then the beast lunges forward, its savage fangs bared, molten fire reflecting in its maddened eyes. But Hunter Choi is already in motion. His strike lands with earth-shattering force, creating a shockwave that sends the beast upward. Fire crackled behind them, but all attention now focused on the imminent clash of strength and rank. With fire still flickering around him, Hunter Choi Jong-in slowly lowered his hand. His voice was calm but resolute, cutting through the heat and the silence that followed the chaos. "With that, this situation has been handled." The roaring flames cast long shadows as they flickered around the debris-strewn battlefield. Gasps and cheers erupted from the few civilians who had survived the carnage. "Wow, Hunter Choi." The awe in their voices was unmistakable. He had turned the tide of battle in mere moments. As expected of the human weapon, "Thank you." The praise washed over him, but he barely reacted. His eyes shifted, scanning the ruined hall with a sharper intent, thoughts racing behind the glint of his glasses. "I think I saw a young child around here." His tone was low, pensive, just loud enough to hint at something left unfinished. From a distance, Suho remained concealed, quietly observing as Hunter Choi addressed the crowd. He thinks, "Did the hunter who fought until I arrived just leave without claiming any credit?" He wondered, watching the man disappear into the shadows of flame. Why would he do that? Suho exhaled, tension unwinding from his limbs. Relief, fleeting but real. Phew, I'm glad he appeared, but there was no time for comfort. Not when his identity was at risk. I can't let my identity be exposed, so I need to get away for now. That aside, Suho's mind reeled as he pieced it together. Iterum had always operated from the shadows, carefully, deliberately, never in the open. And yet now, they had struck brazenly, in broad daylight, amidst a crowd of civilians. His brow tightened with concern. It didn't add up. He stared out at the horizon, flames of the battle behind him still lingering in his thoughts. The disbelief turned to suspicion. Attacking here, in a place teeming with witnesses, it wasn't random. It wasn't desperation. It was strategy, a message, a warning, or worse, the distraction. His thoughts echoed ominously. Are they up to something? Far above, the skies rippled with unnatural hues. A haunting red bled across the heavens, as if some celestial curtain was being drawn. Birds scattered in waves beneath it, fleeing some unseen storm. And below, the indigo dusk deepened, swallowing the last remnants of sunlight. Something was coming. Something vast. Elsewhere, under the cloak of night, a lone figure stood by a window, gazing down upon the glittering skyline. His golden eyes glowed like molten coins in the darkness. He did not blink, did not move, until a pulse, a quiet hum, emerged beside him. The boy turned slowly, his eyes fixed upon the forming sphere of energy. He said nothing, his expression unreadable. The portal shimmered, then flickered with intensity as a second figure began to materialize. A swirling vortex stabilized, bright with swirling energies. The apostle's voice echoed. "You're here, third fragment." The second figure stepped into view, the familiar aura of authority radiating from him. "Long time no see, second fragment." The apostle continued. "Before I hand over this body, I'll give you a simple briefing." As the swirling light danced between them, the apostle's voice continued with clarity. "Among the humans, the living organisms of this world, there exist beings who possess magic power, called hunters. A projection of memories flickered, scenes of battle, of flame and shadow. Among the hunters, there are beings known as S-ranks. They possess immense amounts of magic power, and we need to be wary of them. His voice lowered, grave now. There's also a variable in this world. We must get rid of that. But the third fragment interrupted sharply. Stop. The vortex pulsed, glowing red. I'll look through the memories after I obtain the body for the rest of the details. You've completed your duties and will be absorbed by me as planned. A faint silence stretched between them, pierced only by the hum of the portal. The third fragment, unmoving, finally spoke. What's wrong? Second fragment. Is there a problem? It's nothing. The apostle looked down, his tone quiet. I'll be leaving everything to you then. His eyes lowered further, shadowed by something deeper than fear. Am I feeling sad that I'll be disappearing from this world as a new personality will be taking over? That can't be helped. In this world, fulfilling the will of God is the highest priority. No personal feeling, no attachment, no lingering regret, only the mission. A crimson sphere pulsed with divine energy in his hand, radiating the ominous light of purpose. His grip tightened as the final surge of power began to flow through him. All of this, every action, every sacrifice, was for the sake of the great Creator. A brilliant column of red light exploded outward from his body, spiraling into the air like a lance of judgment. The power burst through the building's roof, splitting the skies in a thunderous blaze. Smoke and sparks drifted in the wake of the explosion as another presence emerged from the distortion, graceful, confident, glowing with the light of ascension. He took slow steps through the lingering mist, cloaked in divine red lightning. This memory, he murmured. A vision sparked within his mind, an image of a lone warrior shrouded in black, veiled in shadows yet burning with the same authority. The variable, he realized, the one the second fragment spoke of. He hadn't expected there to be another being, another existence capable of wielding the power of darkness itself. The realization struck deep. Second fragment, your last decision, he said aloud. His voice laced with cold judgment, was wrong. He clenched his fist, not in anger, but in fascination. It'd be a waste to get rid of him. A faint, calculating smile curled on his lips. Golden eyes glinted beneath strands of silver hair. Because if we turn him into a follower, his smile widened, the divine light circling his frame like an infernal halo. We could control even the dead. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe.